have very good cat cam tonight, by the way, for those interested. We've got Claudia here is... Hello. Interested in general. Hey, kitty. Giving us a show tonight?
Hey, Kat, tell us what your pre-rating is.
Did you like Terra Nova? Did you? No, she's giving me such a look of disgust. She's like, no, what the fuck?
Oh, well, there you go, then.
All right.
Go ahead. No one's got anything funny to say for this one, so just go ahead and introduce us.
I will have
Yeah,
to.
no, go straight ahead. Like, what have I got?
You guys are talking Shale. Welcome to Star Trek Trek, our ongoing journey through the episodes of Star Trek as it's told in history. This is Terra Nova, the 6th episode of Star Trek Enterprise's initial first season, where everyone talks a lot of Shale, everyone's a little bit underground, down with the underground. Reed gets shot, Archer gets sarcastic, and...
You said underground like so many times. I'm thinking about that David Bowie song, and I'm just like, I could be listening to David Bowie right now.
You could be listening to David Bowie instead of watching this. Well, I don't know. I think, right, so, a little bit of exposition for people that didn't watch the... Exposition? Yes, for the people that didn't watch the watch-along. We pre-rated it. We're doing this new thing at the start of the watch-along. We pre-rated it. And at the end of the episode, I will tell you what you guys pre-rated, if you can remember, and then compare it to our new scores. But however, this episode, if I load up the right document that I just closed like an idiot, was written... by Berman, Brandon Braga and Rick Berman. So it's another Berman and Braga. There's a lot of this in Enterprise. Go on.
And directed by
LeVar Burton, who also directed The Pegasus, Second Chances, The Sword of Kahless, Timeless, Q2, Similitude, and also was Geordie LaForge, for those that didn't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, that obviously is big claim to fame.
Yeah. just a little side roll.
Yeah, Similitude.
They got the
Q2,
Similitude director? And
Oh my god!
Wow, the Pegasus guy? What?
Incredible.
Actually, Timeless as well. Timeless was another one he did, so that was, yeah. Good stock. LeVar, very familiar with its Enterprise episodes. Did this one. I think it's his first one for Enterprise. But yeah, this is a Berman and Braga episode. And I don't know. It kind of... now we've watched a few Berman and Braga written episodes. I'm kind of getting a feel for the kind of stuff they do, which is sort of middle of the road,
Boring.
copies of existing Star Trek plots. Otto, go ahead first, because tell us, because you were kind of warming up to this episode as we were watching it.
Well... I tell you what, Stars is going to rant about how terrible it is, so I'm going to let him do that. But I would like to say I think it was a fine episode. I think it was a good episode. And spoiler alert, I'm going to rate it above average. I think, though, it had a lot of fixable issues structurally. Certain things that are like, anyone who's been a pro, now Enterprise is what, like the 5th full series of Star Trek. These guys have been around Star Trek to know certain pitfalls, and the fact that they couldn't avoid it really hurt the episode. So I'll get to them later. But I thought overall it was still a fine episode. Much better than I thought it would be going in. Like, I enjoyed it more, I should say. But go ahead, Stars. Tell us why it's so terrible.
I'm not actually. But here's the thing. I'm going to take umbrage with your idea that this is above average. This is exactly average. I have no strong feelings about this episode one way or the other. I forgot about this episode, and since the last time I watched it, when I did my Enterprise rewatch Brody Marie, I'm going to forget about this episode by tomorrow. I might remember Shale, because that's hilarious, but like, there's just not a lot going on here. There's not a ton of character development that happens. I was literally, even though we hadn't seen this episode in years and I couldn't remember it when you told me what the title was, I was like, oh, she's going to be this and that's going to be that. And we were calling plot points like 10 heads of, and I know we have like our difference of opinion on how good it is if a plot is predictable or not. But when that's all that's going on, I kind of need there to be a plot twist of decent like complexity, or at least some character development. Because like what actually changed for the crew here? They solved a mystery that we didn't know existed beforehand, and that will never be brought up again. I don't disagree with that, actually. I think you get a fair amount of good development, especially for Archer, Trip, T'Pol, Phlox. Like, especially those 4, they get a good amount of development and like stuff for them changes. Here it's like, okay, Travis wrote a book report. Amazing.
Overtard raises a good point. Most of season 1 is retreading well-worn ground with vocabulary tweaks. Yeah, this is a tread on Miri. This is a tread on, I think, what was the other one you said, Otto, where the children shall lead. Like, this is children abandoned at a colony and have to sort of fend for themselves and get humanity completely wrong, despite being of an age where they may actually know of, like, basic English language, which I feel like was my real bad point about this episode. Was all of a sudden they're talking strange caveman language, like oh, even though the girl was like 7 years old when like all the adults died. Like, she should at least know. My children can speak that well English. But Dan, go on.
What you're saying is, if your kids were here, they would have solved this in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I kept waiting for something to happen, and just having the big crescendo of the plot be at the bottom of a ditch with a tree. It just everything about this just seemed like it really wasn't very Star Trek. I understand. Okay, you got the locals and you got to win them over, and so you get a very country western plot here. But there's got to be some way that winning them over solves a plot point. So there is no danger to the Enterprise. In fact, most of the crew is written out for the episode. They wrote out Hoshi, even though she could directly help with translating their weird Temerian, doublespeak. But they mentioned they name dropped some asteroid that destroyed the colony. Maybe it was part of a comet storm. Maybe there's more danger to the Enterprise. Maybe that they have to either leave or abandon the crew. There's just nothing imminent, nothing driving them to really stay there, other than this little friendship, happy, feel good plot. So I feel like without a B plot driving this episode, it really just wound up being just let's hang out in the cave, and they knew how to use a knife still, but they don't know about nothing makes sense.
But they have guns as well.
Nothing makes sense. Yeah,
they
they know how to reload a gun.
Still working 70 years later.
They know about proper gun care. They were kids. How do they know about proper gun care? It's a ballistic weapon. It takes a little bit of maintenance. I kept on
making Fallout like jokes because it does kind of have that Fallout thing of like a lot of this doesn't make sense like in this context. You know what? We're ragging on this episode. I actually do want to give it credit for one thing. I actually really like the makeup that they give the Terra Novans, like with the kind of the muddy effect with like the brightly colored patterns. Like, I'm a sucker for that kind of really cool like tribal aesthetic. Like, I really enjoyed that in Horizon Zero Dawn, which I know you played, Auto. Like, I like that aesthetic. So like I kind of wish they'd lean more into that. I believe. Yeah, it's mud. Yeah, and it's like the brightly colored like pigments. Like, I love that kind of stuff. I think that's a really cool way of like integrating that. Like, Horizon Zero Dawn does a really good job of blending that with like retro futuristic tech, which is really awesome. I kind of wish they'd leaned more into that and we knew more about the Terra Novan culture that Paul even talks about. And it's like, okay, so we get some language. How does their society work? Is this just two randos in a cave? Is this like the leader? How many people are there? What is the size of this colony? Why is it like any of these things would be nice to know? You know what would have been neat? Like, we've got Mayweather having an interest, and like all the other human crew members, like Trip and Archer are both like, oh, we all knew about Terra Nova as a kid. Why not make someone on the ship related to the Terra Novans, and they're the ones who gets trapped in the cave and has to like create some kind of like you've got like my great grandmother's eyes or whatever, or like anything like that, just to create some kind of like personal connection so that I feel engrossed in the drama. Because like it's great that the Starfleet or Boy Scouts, they will help anyone for any reason, even if they directly throw it away. But like, it doesn't make for great drama when the only reason that we're still here is because we're nice.
I feel like that's a little bit of the one point where the episode kind of shines is Archer trying to reiterate to the judgmental son of Bernadette, sort of saying like we are here to help. I will show you. But they kind of ham-fist. It's the you say it's the show don't tell, but then they do show you what, with the guy trapped under the water with the log, but it's not a good situation. It's kind of, you can just go like, you have made this to solve a problem, not made the problem come out organically in order to be solved by Archer. Like, this could have been like, you would have thought that the medical situation with curing her cancer and curing her illness would be like, oh, actually maybe they do know what they're talking about. They just kind of wave it away and go like, we're so futuristic, like, but that could have been the crux of it. But it just felt weird. But I like the idea that they solved it through help. Sorry, I like the idea that he solved it through helping and doing that way, rather than the kind of the plot point where T'Pol says like, yeah, just fucking beam some stun grenades in there and just sort them out.
T'Pol like really likes 80s action movies. She's way into that. So like, there you go.
That was actually the best scene of the episode. It's going to be my best moment. I'm apparently spoiling everything. Uh, Archer, and we bash him for it all the time, he gets real pissy in a lot of diplomatic scenarios. And so he's like, we even joked about it. Like, they're not going to trust us after we showed up and shot at them. Fuck them. And he like storms off. And then so she has to go and confront him. And so one of the things she recommends is, why don't we do it by force? And she knows, and I realized that, like, as I was like panning it, I'm like, she's a Vulcan. Why would she, why would, and I realized it's because she knew he wasn't going to go for the plan. And then he realizes, oh, we can't do it by force. We have to find another way. We have to try to reach them on a human level because we're both humans. And so, it was scant on character development, but I actually thought her sort of swinging into action there and helping him to come to the conclusion on his own was a nice plus and a nice little interaction between first officer and captain.
I would actually agree with you. I did actually feel a bit more compelled with that episode because with that part of the episode because they're like there's opposition going on. There's drama. People are invested. There are points of view that have to be considered here. And like T'Pol's kind of got a point in that, like, yeah, you can uproot these people, but is that not just as much like traumatic to them as like when they originally like lost the colony to the asteroid in the first place? Do you really have the right to like just uproot them because granted, he's coming at it from a completely understandable and good point of view, but it is also a case of you're just unilaterally imposing your will on these people.
Well, here's the thing.
How many people does it take before it becomes wrong?
Yeah, well, that's how they resolve the episode, though. They still did relocate them, even though not forcibly. But they've taken a culture. They have music. They've generated art. You saw the patterns of the tortoise shells that they put on their. So they've got faceplate. Everything about them screams that they've developed their own independent culture. And now we're going to take them out of the area that they've grown, where they know how to hunt the diggers. They know what type of local flora and fauna to subsist on. And you're going to put them in a different hemisphere of the planet. Why not just take them off the planet? It doesn't really solve much of anything. There's going to be an adjustment period. And, I'm not saying that they won't be able to adapt, but it's going to be a dramatic change to their culture. So really, in doing this, you think you're helping them, but you're still destroying them. So,
You know what? I feel like that. You know what? She's saying that, and I'm imagining a different last 10 minutes of the episode where we skip forward and Phlox fixes her cancer, that convinces them, and then we just spend the rest of the episode rebuilding their culture and like working out the cultural differences and resettling them in a way that doesn't completely destroy what is unique about them. Like, they help them identify what parts of the flora on these other continents are edible. They help them like go, there's an adjustment period here, but let's help you through it. It would have been cool to see that side of it.
I feel like they tried to do a Darmok and tried to have like a common thread that the two cultures can identify with, but it didn't really follow through because at all the times it was just a case of like, well, no, of course Archer's a better and a more sophisticated culture. These aren't two equals talking to each other, but they kind of tried to do that.
Yeah, but it's cowboys and Indians, isn't it? Right. So, they're both equally relevant cultures. Just, it's the clash.
Actually, I wouldn't have hated a Bakula electric guitar solo somewhere in the middle of this episode because I felt like he was, sort of bordering on America fuck yeah territory once or twice. The language was that was maybe my biggest issue because, like I said when we were watching, this has been panned by a lot of people as not a good episode. I'm going to try to pinpoint the reasons why as I'm watching this. The language was one of them. It's like they tried to have their cake and eat it too, where they have perfect grammar and total understanding of modern space standard, which is English for the show. But then they also say shit like I'm leg broke. Like you're telling me after 70 years your language is going to morph into something like that. Language morphs because of people coming and going and travelers
melting their languages together.
Right. But instead you have this self-contained group, and in 70 years they're going to morph like that far. Was a little bit unbelievable. So they wanted to give them an alien feeling element, but it just didn't make sense logically. And the fact that they held it all the way through to the end of the episode, like Jammin never calls it Enterprise. He keeps calling it Skyship. And it's like, well, you've been there, you've talked to them. It's like if they'd started to make allowances, started to like meld the language a little bit, so it felt a little bit more natural. But they just didn't. And so it's stuff like leg broke and is your belly hollow really like
Yeah,
jumped
the
out.
belly
as,
hollow
like,
one got me.
it clanged against your ears. Like, would they
Yeah.
really be saying this in their self-contained group after just a couple decades? I don't think
Yeah.
so.
No.
I think.
That's actually another point.
Oh no, go for it. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, because I want to follow up on that point specifically, because like you say, they maintain this language thing throughout the entire episode, and then right at the end, Nadette is like literally talking like an Enterprise crew member. Like there's like very few
she did,
bits
didn't
and
she?
pieces of the Novans, and it's like, okay, that happened really quickly. Like it'd be one thing if it was a case of like they start the episode and they're almost completely incomprehensible, and then like they slowly start to learn more and more of it, and then, but it's very much just a case of and now I'm speaking like a completely normal human.
And that
Also,
probably,
there you go.
sorry, that probably would have helped twofold, because then you do need Hoshi for that. The fact that it's
Yeah.
English just with a few like twisted metaphors, it's simple enough that Archer didn't need anyone, which, defeats the purpose of having an ensemble cast.
Yeah. I feel like there was a scene, like talking about the belly full moment. There was a scene where Reed is trying to talk to the guest actor who wasn't given too many lines because they didn't want to pay him too much, but where he's sharing food. And I feel like there could have been definitely like an avenue of the episode where Reed and this character could have bonded over something. He was in danger, or they didn't trust, and they learned some trust, and that's how they convince the elder, the son of the elder, to actually go like, no, these guys are legit. Look, he's my boy now, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because it feels like it's leading into that, and then it just doesn't happen.
No.
And it also reminds me of like we're talking about like contact with a primitive culture, first contact style thing. Why don't we ever get a moment like in Who Watches the Watchers, where Picard shows the Mintarkan from
Well, they kind of
from
do.
orbit. Like,
They take him to
No, they
space.
don't see-
Well, they take him to space,
Yeah,
but there's
there's
no
a
reaction to it.
Especially don't show. Yeah, they don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like, do these Novans not give a single shit? Like, they see the Overside as this, like, remarkable, weird, dangerous place.
You think that's wild? Watch this.
They get taken into fucking space and they don't care. It's so weird.
You see those twinkly things up there? That's where I live.
That's a good point. So the entire episode is from the point of view of these mature members of the society, and the only time the youngsters play a part is either when one's pinned under a log or when they play some music. There's no, man, I was just starved for some sort of interaction where the young ones wanted somehow to know the story, where they were compelled to come up and explore the ghost town, where one of them had a trinket that they used to adorn themselves. They pulled off of something in the ghost town, and everyone came back and was, aghast. How could you bring this? No interaction whatsoever. And that's what made this so small. It feels like it was so on such a small
It's a planet
scale.
of 2 people. Yeah.
Right. And it's just there was I think that's where just some fresh perspective, rather than, okay, it's just Archer getting to know Vedic Yarka, over the course of the episode, and it just didn't do it. And Dr. Phlox could have gotten to know, what was her name, yeah. So gotten to know her better, and there could have been some more interaction there. There was just really just nothing.
Yeah.
Didn't go anywhere or do anything.
Did they say how many were supposed to be on the colony?
We only saw that picture of the ant colony where there were maybe 2 or 3 dozen in that photo, but I don't think they actually specified a number.
Okay.
It was a relatively small ship, if I recall.
I think it's 200 or something on the ship. But then, like, most of
Maybe,
the adults
yeah.
died, and I think that maybe there's like a handful of children over 75 years. I mean,
Yeah.
All right. There's lots of other problems to talk
There
about,
are.
so let me break it up with a good one. Idle, you said that we all liked the fact that they take their ship, transform it into a habitat,
that's cool.
and
Yeah,
that's happened elsewhere in Trek. But it's a fun concept, and it fits the story perfectly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it shows your commitment to the to what you're doing. Like, especially for a colony ship, that is a big commitment. You're basically, this is my life now. And especially when you consider like the kind of people that would have to commit to this, the fact that, like, I know that all the adults died, but none of that rubbed off on their kids. Like, why does Nadette not remember anything?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you brought up the point of it would make way more sense if the radiation had affected their minds. Like, it does. Radiation sickness is absolutely a thing that can make you, like, dizzy and incoherent. And it's like, it would make way more sense if there had been some kind of long-term radiation effect. Or, you know what? We were talking about, like, seeing their planet from space. Wouldn't it have been, like, kind of more, given more of a sense of scale and tragedy if they had been coming up from the surface and you just see the asteroid? Like there's a massive scar in the planet where it hit, and it's like, oh shit, that's a bad
Been
one.
better than the ant
Like,
colony
that would-
CGI.
Yeah.
Part of that might have been budget, but actually that would have been a great, like, show had the camera right outside the shuttle pods, a window,
Yeah.
and the looks on their faces as you see things in the reflection of the glass as they're witnessing. That would have been like a glorious shot, but obviously budget is going to be part of that.
And there's your
You know-
B plot. The B plot is let's remove the fragments or the asteroid. Let's
Yeah.
give everybody on the ship a way to figure this out and engineer it. And then also now they get to come up from the underside and reinhabit
Okay.
the overside.
I have to bring something up now because I just realized it. All of these fixes are basically turning this into the planet of the Lotus Eaters from Strange New World Season 2.
A little bit, actually, yeah. Without
Right down to the
yeah.
asteroid radiation, the primitive culture that don't remember. Like, that's a way better episode than this because it has a way more personal investment.
Well,
mm.
but there's nothing wrong with that because this episode
Yeah, totally.
is 20 years old. So
Yeah.
if you can recycle a plot that sounds decent on paper and make it better, more power to you.
Yeah. But no, it does just strike me of like, yeah, that is kind of the template I would want to build it more towards because they actually do raise up the asteroid and get it rid of it, and like they actually do interact with it. It still feels small in that Strange New episode, but like feels bigger than this.
Listen, this episode isn't good enough for this long of a review, so let's move on.
Okay, let's
to,
wrap it up.
Let's move on to best and worst
No.
moments. No, go on.
No. So I give you issue number 1 with the language, which I think we all agreed on. Issue number 2, this is the biggest one. The stakes are garbage. And it's, again, that's a structural issue.
Steaks are made of digger meat.
Yeah. When they wrote it, they wrote the climax to be at about like the 12-minute mark when we reveal, oh, these are humans. And, so as you said, you kind of got to do it because it's fake suspense otherwise. And for this particular run of the story, that's true, but then change your story. Because what happened is it sucked all the air out of the room. And so the rest 30 minutes are like, okay, then what are we doing this for? What are we watching for? To the point where they had to make up fake drama with like the ground collapsing under the shuttle pod and a guy who we've never seen before gets caught under a tree. It's like, well, who gives a shit?
Wait, also that guy was in the abandoned tunnels. Why?
I think that wasn't that Reed's mate. Wasn't that the guy he tries to bond with?
I don't know.
Who
It's
knows?
not like they had names. I only remember Nadet. That's the only one.
Either way, like, obviously the climax should have been, oh, they're really humans all along. And, maybe that undercuts then a lot of the stuff with them trying to, with Archer trying to get relate to them. But either way, if you put your climax that early, it just, there's no coming back from that. You can't produce a substantial amount of suspense the rest of the way. And especially, I think, with the episodic filming, like, you want people to tune in after that last commercial break. What are you going to do? And they went with the tree, and it's like, that's not sufficient to get me to tune into the last segment. Number 3, which was kind of weird. It wasn't a huge thing, but I just felt like, I mentioned it early on, it felt like they're just sitting there describing all the exposition to everyone, and it felt like a TOS episode where they're like reading from a logbook, and it was a lot of tell, don't show. And then when they wrap it up at the end with even more like exposition from, well, these are the historical records. It was just, it felt like a TOS episode in a bad way, sort of.
Yeah, in like the kind of the clunkiness of the setup and the finish off, it was like, dude, this could have been done a lot more naturalistically because this is like 2001, not 1961. Like we can smooth out some of these imperfections here, but yeah.
Go on.
No, go on. Before we go on to best and worst moments, I forgot about a little game I planned because I planned a little game for you guys. So you recognise Eric Avari, who played the son of Bernadette. Game for each of you. I would like 3 other projects you have seen, 3 other TV shows or films you have seen him in, because he is everywhere. So please give me 3 other projects between the 3 of you.
I know he's in everything, but I can't name him in anything.
No, he's always supporting, so it's tough.
Supporting.
Yeah.
I bet if you just shout
Dan,
out random...
You got the Bajoran one.
Oh, go on. I'll allow a Star Trek reference. If you can tell me the episode.
Dan's got it. He already mentioned him.
He's a Vedic, right?
He's not a Vedic, no.
Oh, isn't he the other prophet? The other emissary?
Yes.
Quorum Loss? Is it a Quorum Loss? I forget his
It's not
name.
that, no.
No, not that one.
No. He plays Yarka in Destiny, is the episode where he comes through the wormhole and is actually the original person that went through the wormhole first time, not Cisco, and there's a bit of a thing of that. He was also in another
the other
episode.
Emissary, like I said, you're welcome, by the way.
He
Got it.
he was also in Unification. He played a background Klingon Bijik. He's also been in numerous loads of things. If you're wondering where you've seen him before, he's been in The Mummy, the 2001 Planet of the Apes. He's been in Daredevil, Stargate, and SG-1. Cheers.
I was gonna say an MCU show, but I was like, I couldn't say which one.
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't MCU Daredevil. That was the original Ben Affleck one. But yeah. Sequest DSV, Wings, Lewis and Clark, Babylon 5.
Electra Nachos' dad. He's Electra's dad. Fuck.
And I think...
God damn it.
And I think his most notable appearance was in Home Alone 4, Taken Back the House. Okay, best and worst moments. Please start us off. Stars.
Oh, God. Well, I know what order is going to pick, so I'm going to avoid the natural pick I would have gone for my best. My best moment...
No, go ahead.
No. You,
I've got something
there's
else.
slim pickings. Okay, if you're sure. In which case, the best moment is between DePaul and Archer in the briefing room, where they actually have a proper captain first officer argument about what to do, and both of them have a point, and they come to a compromise, and there is a legitimate culture clash going on. And guess what? I don't love Archer as a character. However, I do love his dynamic with DePaul, especially how it grows over the series. And this, and comparing it to how they will, do this in the future, I do love seeing that progression. And it's guess what? It's one of the few times in the episode that two characters are arguing about something where it's not cheap drama because I'm totally an alien, but I'm actually a human that doesn't remember shit. Like it's no, I have a legitimate viewpoint, you have a legitimate viewpoint. Meet in the middle, talk. I love that shit. I'm all about that. That's way more Star Trek to me. Worst moment? Oh god.
Take your pick.
Okay, you know what? This would have been my best moment if it had amounted to anything, but it didn't. The fact that they build up the, hey, give me your gun. Why? Oh, because and then like Mayweather gives him another pistol, and then it doesn't matter. Like,
yeah, that was
you
weird.
are
He can't just
setting
wait, give
up
me your
the-
gun. I'm just gonna have it now. This is mine.
Yeah, no, like he didn't even try and use it. He didn't try and double cross him. Didn't try and use it himself to free his friend. He just wanted to have it, I guess. It's just like, considering the obvious setup and the fact that I was like, oh, really clever of you, Mayweather, to just pull another gun out of the shuttle pod, because of course you have multiples, and then it just doesn't amount to shit. Like that I'm legitimately annoyed by that.
I think the point was he didn't trust the humans, and so he wanted the weapon out of his hands. B, he wanted to see if he would give it to him. And it was very cliche, like the I trusted you, now you trust me thing. Like, I didn't like that part of it, but I do think it kind of makes sense to just like to underpin the mistrustfulness from their end.
Oh yeah, no, the mistrustfulness is fine, but the fact that like they explicitly do a smart thing that a professional in this scenario would do, and then it didn't amount to shit. Like, I feel like there should have been some payoff for Mayweather and Archer being smart instead of it just blindly bulldozing right.
It would have
into
been
the
cool
trunk.
if like they got to the point where he's going to use the phase pistol on the wood, and he goes, "No, we do this the underground way." Snapped the phaser, and then went right, and then like, well, they'll have to do something else ingenious. Like that would have been a nice like payoff to secure more trust by putting one of his people in danger. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Also, give us your best and worst.
So you had said there's a scene where I forget their names now, Jammin and Nadette. We're in sick bay. Archer's outside talking with, I think it was Phlox with the door closed. And Isla, you said there is kind of a tragedy here. And there is. Like, they do just enough that you feel bad for them, because the pathos of radiation poisoning is an incredible, like that works for me every time. It is such an insidious, disgusting thing that destroys you bit by bit, and there's nothing anyone can
It's a
do about
cosmic
it.
horror as well. Like it's
It's-
this invisible thing killing you.
They basically hit that note to kill Carrie at the end of Voyager,
Yeah.
Like, just for another Star Trek pull, and yeah, the fact that it is so like unavoidable and it just, so I like that sort of melding that they use that plot point to like to draw out your heartstrings. So my worst moment was, yeah, it was the I'll go with the language. The stakes are shit, and you could rewrite the story so that it doesn't peak so early. But I'm leg broke. Like anytime you say something that is so outrageous that it takes you out of the show you're watching, I didn't like that. Because I actually was getting into it uh, here and there. So yeah, leg broke, and what was the other one? Belly hollow. Do better with your sci-fi
Shale.
writing.
Yeah. Go on, Dan.
Why is it Shale?
Yeah, I think that's actually a keen observation about Shale because it slips out from under you, and I'm sure living underground in the
Easily
caverns,
breakable.
it's untrustworthy. You
Brittle,
can't.
fine
Yeah,
grained,
okay.
easily
Yeah,
eroded.
yeah,
Alright.
more footing.
That's
So,
fine.
so,
Yeah.
so I'm okay with that actually. But yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of the other stuff was
Shale's
just kind
fine.
of ham-fisted. So, um, I'm kind of torn about my best moment because there were some really brief glimpses of what could be greatness, but I think I'll probably go with just their intro to the ghost town. You've got your, the four horsemen riding into the ghost town.
Welcome back.
Four abreast, and so I mean, there's a lot of echoes there, and
The tumbleweed.
they
Literal
wound up
tumbleweed.
eventually. Yeah. I mean, it's fine. I don't care if they reused some other Western's old abandoned set or whatever happened there. If they made it from scratch, what a waste. But it was a great start, poorly utilized. But I love that first moment. Absolute worst was, so Mayweather's whole thing is he's supposed to be a pilot. They can scan, we established in the episode, they can scan up to 40 meters down into the ground and see the cavern structure. T'Pol's able to figure out how to help navigate them out of the caverns just with her little hand thingy. And so he chooses. So
No, he was watching the episode and he's like, we need something to get this episode moving. Like, I'm gonna land here. Now there'll be some tragedy. These two need to trust each other.
That's the absolute worst part is when they all laugh it off the very next scene in the mess hall. And oh, you're cool. It's all right. Accidents happen, buddy. Whatever. It's just a shuttle pod.
Yeah. We're fine. We'll just need a whole scaffold rig to get this out. Tucker, get the grappler. I'm going to go start my best one. I really like the little map painting as the shuttle came into land and the sort of little bit of planet dynamics as it's going towards there. I like space shots. I like seeing some artists actually having some work to do on this, and having, they could have just reused a static shot from Strange New World, the episode, and just said, "Oh, you're landing in a field. There we go." But they didn't. They actually put a little bit of effort into it. My worst moment, which I'm surprised no one mentioned because we flagged it in the episode. So there's this beautiful moment where Reed's connecting with this guy, and he just sees this girl, and she's playing a little flute on little flute. It's a lovely sort of Avatar moment where they're all sort of like communing, and you have this moment of communion, really building up to crescendo, and then there's a hard cut, and there's Archer just reading the newspaper.
God, I hated that.
Just out of nowhere, you just thought
unnatural.
it's a moment for Reed to go like this culture.
Come on, you're better than this, buddy.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, but they could jump cut to anything. They could jump cut to like the Enterprise flying through space, or like a shuttle being prepped on. No, they just choose to jump cut to Archer just reading the fucking newspaper, and it's so jarring and it just takes the culture, like the Novans' culture is supposed to be something that they're trying to preserve, but they don't want to show it. Like this is the moment where they're kind of going like, I don't know if it was just like an editing reason. They just like, we need to cut 5 minutes. Fuck it, let's just cut out the whole Reed like getting to know one of the daughters and integrating himself with the society. He starts painting his head blue, all this kind of stuff.
I wanted to shout that out earlier, when we were chatting about it, because I knew it would have bothered you. Because you're a details-oriented guy, Idle, and you like your numbers and you like starships and that kind of stuff. But you also, I appreciate that you appreciate the small things. Like, I hate to bring up the episode, but when we did Charlie X, you enjoyed the, quote, slice of life stuff. And it's true. Like, that is what makes the cultures feel like a culture. And yeah, I was getting into it too, like with the music, and that cut being so hard was just, it destroyed the previous 2 minutes that you spent giving an identity to this culture.
It was so bad. I'm
It
gonna
was amateurish, actually. Yeah, straight up, yeah.
Okay, let's go around the table once more and give us our rating. Stars, please. What is our criteria for this week.
All right, gentlemen. How many dances with shales out of 10 would you like to give this episode?
I thought you were going to go with boatswain's whistles made out of bone.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I was also really tempted by conveniently placed tumbleweeds that are part of the mise en scène. I thought that might be a bit inside.
Oh, that's great. All right, Stars, you go first. You pre-rated this at a 4.
I'm going to bump up to a 5. Like I
Okay.
said to her, this is a completely milquetoast average episode. There is nothing outright offensive about it. There are parts of it that are good. There are parts of it that are bad. I feel like they completely level each other out. I don't think that it's particularly memorable, but it did not offend me. It is a complete 5 out of 10. Bang on the middle.
Yeah, it was an episode of Star Trek. Auto, you previously gave it you pre-rated it at a 3.
I'm sorry, what is the rating criterion?
How many dances with shales?
Dances with shales.
Dances with shales, sorry. I like to make sure we stick.
It's going to be codified.
I've been kind of waffling, so I'm feeling generous. I pre-rated 3. I'm going to give this a 6.
Ooh.
It's less boring than I remembered. I enjoyed it more than I remembered. And the fact that I think a lot of the issues I have with it are fixable kind of gives it the benefit of the doubt. Like, if you did another pass on this writing, I think you could fix a lot of the issues with, the climax, with the language and that kind of thing. But the issues, such as they are so massive and obvious.
And easily fixed.
It's like, you guys have been doing this show for decades, and they're sitting right in front of you. How do you allow these issues to make it live? Like, I know it's still season 1 and whatnot, but it's like a professional should be like, if Joe Schmo here on the chair in his room can see it, why can't you? So, but that being said, I did enjoy it a lot more than I thought I would. This would be like, one of those Topher Grace re-edits. If they release like a better version of this, I would probably pay $10 to watch it. So
we're gonna get the Brandon Braga cut, are we?
So 6 dances with wolves. I mean Shale out of
LeVar Burton cut. Dan, you pre-rated at 3. Where do you sit now?
It's better than that. I'll grant you that. So here's the thing: is that we were criticizing this episode because none of us remembered it. But that's the thing. Star Trek doesn't need to be memorable; it just needs to be watchable. It doesn't always have to deliver a point. And in this case, it's just an early season. They're trying to win some viewership back, maybe introduce some new viewers to Trek. So it's got to be palatable. It can't be too heady. And so I do agree that Stars Auto, this is better than a 3. I'll probably go up to 5. I think it's average. They could have done better. They didn't offend me. So we're okay.
Yeah, in the end, that's all I can really ask for.
I pre-rated at 4. I'm also going to go to a 5. Dances with Shales. This was a tale of two halves. Like, the first half was a bit like, I remember this being worse, and then it got to the second half. I was like, I remember why it was worse. But there were parts I enjoyed. Like you say, there were bits that I do enjoy.
I think the last 10 minutes killed it. And it was because they were trying to cram in a climax that they've already had.
Yeah.
So maybe if they just cut that out and even just went with a happily ever after, that might have been a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely.
This is a real indication why you need extra things going on, because if you try to take one premise and stretch it out to 45 minutes, it's just going to be all padding and caves.
And that's Star Trek, folks.
Yeah, no, it's actually just
Dancing with Shale.
I even gave them credit for fucking filming on location, and then they immediately go right back into caves.
I do like the idea. I like the idea that for 75 years, they saved, instead of hunting live game like on the planet's surface, they saved all their bullets in case the humans came back, just so they could shoot at them. I like the idea.
Okay.
Bring them out of storage. We got people to kill.
That concludes our review of Terra Nova. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with the Corbomite maneuver. If you're wondering why there's Christmassy decorations up, it's because we filmed this in December and this is likely going out in March. But hey, that's how it goes. If you are on the stream,
No, you'll just like that all year round.
yeah,
You're a real festive
it's just a
person.
festive household. If you're watching this on stream, stick about because we're going to watch the Corbomite maneuver in a minute. But for the rest of you guys, live long and prosper, and ta-ra.